When do you choose a Genesis card? Well, you could choose it before you sketch, but I really recommend that you wait. I want you to focus on the 7 reasons that you chose a spot, sketch, and then pick your card afterwards, picking it randomly. And that way you're not thinking about, oh, my card, what do I do? How do I add details of my artwork to the card while you're sketching? You're completely free. This is intuitive art. But once you choose the card afterward, then you start to have a 3-way conversation. You're in the middle and you're refereeing your frog prints, in this case my Israeli hydrangeas, and have them speak to each other. And maybe I'll give you an idea of how the conversation works. So the frog prince is saying to the hydrangeas, hey there, any animals in your picture? And then the hydrangeas say, no, actually there aren't. It goes, maybe you need a frog in the picture. And then the hydrangeas say, I'll think about it. And then the frog speaks to the little prince in the picture and says, hey prince, you got any suggestions for our hydrangea picture? And the prince says, leave it to the flowers to decide. Leave it to them. And you go back and forth, this little conversation. Then maybe the buildings in the background, actually it's a castle. The castle says, hey, I don't see any structure in your hydrangea pictures. Do you want some structure? And then again, the picture responds and says, let me think about it. So you see, there's no commitment in the beginning. But then what happens next is I go back to the studio where it's easier for me to be in my familiar space with our art supplies. So I do recommend you go back to your kitchen table or your studio and you continue. And that's when you put the card and your artwork next to each other, you can then answer some of the points that were raised by the card and see if you want to add things. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's completely up to you. And some of these feelings that you get, maybe, I don't want to touch my picture. I love it just the way it is. But then another voice inside says, well, maybe you don't want to touch it because you've never drawn a frog before. If you've never drawn a castle before, you've never drawn a little prince before, and that makes you nervous. So go with the stretch. Go with the challenge. If it makes you a little bit scared, but also a little bit excited, try to add things. And that way you grow as an artist.